Okay, so what this video is for is to go over the idea evaluation framework, the revenue idea evaluation framework. What this arose from was there's been clients that I've worked with in the past, and even currently, that they have a situation where they have like 100 people on the team, 160 people on the team. And what ends up happening is they have departments where they start generating ideas on how to make money. An example where that arises, where I've seen it arise, is you have a person in charge of a department who's responsible for generating a certain amount of revenue. There's a revenue gap, right? So they didn't make as much as they expect. So they try to come up with ideas on how to plug the revenue holes, right, to generate the revenue. Um, so what that leads to is people coming up with ideas on how to like make money in silos, and a lot of times those can conflict with existing initiatives, right? So I'll give you an example. I had a company that was in the process of trying to build create a parent company, right? They were going to um, basically go through a business overhaul, right? They were going to completely restructure the business. They also had at the same time an initiative to reduce costs. So they were going to evaluate the roles in the company, which ones we don't need, and they were going to cut it, right? And then they were going to modify an existing offer to make it a $50,000 offer, and then all the deliverables they were going to have to do for that. There was an offer for events where they were going to launch an events business. They were going to launch a done for you service business or consulting service, and just all these different projects that conflict. Like for example, if you try to like build a business, right, and at the same time you're trying to cut costs, that it's you don't do that. You either are cutting costs, and then once you got your cost cuts, you decide to like, okay, how can we with our existing team build the business, or you're like in the building phase, and then after you get done building you cut costs. So there's things like that, and people just, you ask simple questions about like, why are we going over to a particular platform, and people can't answer it. You ask the question of who was the person that initiated this idea, nobody can answer it. It's just things like that that create problems and can ultimately really hurt the business, right? So that's what this is about. I'll give you an example with myself. So I got this idea of what I want to do, and I'm like, hey, I want to do bespoke, CEO, owner of small businesses, and I just build infrastructures like the one you see in front, right? They have a problem, I build a tool that helps them solve it, right? And so, well, how am I going to go about doing this? Well, across the top here, you see the series of metrics that matter, right? Hey, how much money are you looking to make? What's the potential, right? Does this align with the initiatives that your company has, right? Like what your overall strategy is, right? Is there a demand in the market for this, right? And what about like what resources you need in order to actually execute this idea? Like, what are you going to have to buy? Do you have to get somebody that's an expert in an area that you're not? Things like that. And then ultimately, what's the risk level, right? And then how much money is this going to cost, and so forth, right? So for me, that's zero. Um, and this would be, I would say, 5 months, maybe 6 months down the road, or let's just make it 4 months, right? And so, in addition to that, a lot of times people ignore the bandwidth of the team, right? What are the roles that you need for that? Well, just me, right? I need a VA, and I need someone that does the Facebook post marketing, right? And I need because I'll do the lead gen. The VA will help out. So I need two VAs, right? And uh, so VA, right? Uh, and I would say this is going to cost about 3 hours per person per week, um, and including myself, right, to get it started. And so in this approach, right, what we would do is we would have this offer, and the idea name is just like, hey, what's the name of the idea? Is it a new offer, a modification to an existing offer, or a new business unit? These categories you can edit. This is generally what I see in the clients that I work with. It's one of these three. The revenue generating potential, when you click on these notes up here, you'll notice that there is a scoring. Like, how do you know what number to put in here? Well, the estimated revenue that you expect to generate, right? 1 to 3 is if it's less than $100,000 annually. 4 to 6 is 100K to a million annually. High is a million to 10 million, and then transformational would be more than 10 million, right? And it gives you like what sources you can look at uh, in your business to find those types of information. Now, what I did for this was real simple. I did a Google search. I said, okay, let's say I charged $100,000, or sorry, $200 per consult, and you only pay at the end if you like what you're getting. Then I drop a little link. You pay the $200. I drop the product, and we're done, right? So let's say I could do 3 of those a day on average, 5 days a week, right? That's $3,000 a month, a week, which it translates to $12,000 a month, which is 144,000 a year. So, and it's closer to 100,000 than it is to a million. So when I look in here, right, that's going to put it at a 4, right? Because it's really close to 100,000. Not, it's not even 200,000. So I'm going to put a 4 in there, right? Strategic alignment. Hey, does this align with what my the core goals are? It turns out that the way I'm building this, it feeds into another client that I have that can take it to the next step once I support the client with getting all their stuff in one place and organized. So it's almost preparing to refer over to another client that I have that then brings in money. So it strongly aligns, right? It's about an 8, right? For market demand, there's definitely there's some evidence because I see this with not competitor activity, but what I see it with is my own clients, right? Like I have clients, this comes up all the time. It's the same problem over and over and over again. So I'm giving that a 5. It's like in the middle, because I haven't done like the competitor research, anything like that, right? What about operational efficiency? Like uh, the operational part. Well, I don't need any additional resources to do this. This is my area of expertise. It's something I know to do, how to do. I've got all the resources I need to do it, including team, right? So I don't need to add anything else, right? I've got the 2 VAs already, the person that knows how to do the Facebook group. All of that's in place. Now the risk level is, hey, um, like what's the risk here, right? Is it gonna, if I get this wrong, will it damage my reputation? Well, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get it wrong. Is there financial risk? The answer is no, because that doesn't cost anything upfront to get this started. So I put a 1 there. And then what that does, right, is it gives me a tool that I can then look at to find out, hey, is this worth doing? Now, the score, arbitrarily, I said, hey, if it's a 6 or above, then it's an idea worth going with. So according to this, um, it's something we should hold off of on, right? What do I need to change? I need to get something over here in greater clarity in order to make this a decision. So you set the criteria. Now maybe it's a 5 or above or a 6 or above, but you pick a threshold that makes sense to you, and then it tells you whether to proceed. This is close to proceeding, but it's not quite there yet. So in my thing, what really needs to go up is the revenue potential is pretty much static, right? What I need to know is probably um, the only thing I can really do is increase find out if there's a greater marketing demand, right? And if that goes up, right, then that would increase it. So like let's say I could take this to an 8, right? Then it would definitely be a decision that I would make because it's 6.3, you see. So but right now it's a 5. So this tells me what I need to do in order to know whether or to proceed with this action. It's very systematic, right? I need to do market research and find out, hey, how much of a demand is there for this? And then after that, really the only other area that I could impact would be strategic alignment. And that makes perfect sense. That's accurate, right? Like I need to make sure that what I'm doing perfectly aligns with what this client has so that it's a snap and pop. Then if I do that, I could also increase this to like a 9 or a 10, right? If I increased it to a 10, even keeping the market demand as it is would still take me over the line. But as of right now, it's an 8. So what this does is it helps you narrow down on what the next step strategically needs to be in order to get to the next step, right? To make a decision on whether to do something, especially if you're committed, right? So for me, I need to first check the market because that's the lowest lying fruit, and then I need to consult with the client and make sure that the thing we're building out, that I'm building out, doesn't compete and that it actually creates demand for them, and then we're in, right? Then this would become a thing that I do now. Suppose for a moment that you've got your offer and the decision is a yes. At that point, that's when you fill out the project brief. The project brief, what its job is to, and it's right here. But basically, there's going to be a person that's going to be in charge of the idea. In this case, it's just me. But if you have a team, there's somebody that's going to be accountable for the outcome and the revenue that's generated by this idea. So what needs to be put together is the project manager, the person putting this thing together needs to put together a project brief that goes through and explains exactly what is needed, the resources that are needed, the how you're going to communicate, the risks, and the how you're going to measure whether this is successful, right? Well, if you're starting with a revenue generating thing, the KPI is did you hit your revenue target, right? And stuff like that. So this allows you to create a very short but compact project brief, and this becomes like the hallowed document of this entire thing. This is the thing that explains like why you're doing it, what you need to do. It ensures that you're following like a proven uh, way of getting and executing your objectives. It tells you what your scope of work is, exactly what tasks you're going to do, what the deliverables are. It's going to clarify what's not included so you don't start doing a bunch of things in the project that aren't part of the project. It tells you who's going to be the person in charge of managing it, and then who's going to be the person that's responsible for executing the roles, right? The timelines, when this starts, when it ends, and key milestones. Um, you're gonna put in here like what is your resources that you're going to need, and the budgets, and a lot of this will come from right here. Like for example, in your roles, you know how many hours it's going to take for this, and that'll tell you, hey, um, that'll tell you, hey, it's going to take each of these roles 3 hours. So you got to make sure that those people that are here have 3 hours to work on this, right? This is what they got to block off in their calendar, so that they know how much, like what it's going to take to execute this thing, right? So this helps you to manage your bandwidth, and that would also go into the project brief, and then you would just go from there. So that's pretty much it. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Hope you enjoy this. If you have questions or you want something similar built to this, feel free to reach out to me and we can work out a deal and go from there.